Next up for us, 1 p.m. Eastern, Seattle Seahawks 0-1, heading to Detroit, who are coming off of the big Thursday night victory in at Arrowhead. We're in Ford Field for Detroit, in Detroit, Michigan, and I don't remember there being this much excitement around the Detroit Lions ever. Ever. Let's talk about the line history here. Opened up with Detroit -5.5, and it's now 6. But Pinnacle never opened it at 5.5. Pinnacle opened it at 6 at a pick'em. Bet Online at 5.5. This is 6 as a pick'em. So this 6, the +6 on the Seahawks, opened up at -106 at 8 p.m. on Sunday night. By 8:12 p.m., there'd be 19 cents of movement to the Seattle Seahawks. That's telling. That's telling that there's an expectation of a bounce back. Then there was a little bit of buyback, and then it moved again towards the Seahawks where they got up to -126. That was yesterday at 11:40 a.m. But it's come back down, and we're now seeing now that 6 is still plus money, -6 plus 101 for Detroit. Let's go over to the total in this one. We are sitting with Pinnacle offering a 48, but a lot of books dropping 47s, 47 and a half. This has come all the way down from 51. So had a really big 3-point move and more at other books, but 3-point move at Pinnacle towards the under. Let's take a look at the cash flow then for this one. We have 27% of the tickets and 41% of the cash on the Detroit Lions. It's unexpected that the public would be betting the Seahawks. I did not think that we'd be sitting here with 73%. Now, maybe the public doesn't bet NFL in the first 48 hours after the games are played, and that would be a fair statement that maybe we're still waiting for the public really to get in. From a total side of things, you have 40% of tickets on the under, but 51% of cash, and we've seen it drop 3 points. Birdie says his favorite bet this week is Seattle first quarter +2.5, and Seattle first quarter money line will be on Seattle full game. But what is the rush line? Hysteria moves this line nowhere but up, and there will be points in this game. Nufflo Challenge says, do you have a team total on Detroit? Yes, I'll give you this Lions team total right now. The team total for the Lions at Pinnacle is 28.5, and they're not giving you an alternate line. That 28.5 right now is -163 to the under, plus 138 to the over. So I have to look at a different book to give you a real legit line. So, I felt really good about my breakdown on the Seahawks, but who cares if you don't bet the other side? I mean, who fucking cares? I didn't have the balls to bet the Rams, so there's no patting myself on the back for. I was angry about the offensive line in Seattle. I'm from the Pacific Northwest, and it's year after year after year, Pete Carroll not caring about the offensive line, not giving the offensive line the bag, and their quarterbacks running for their lives. They open with a shockingly bad 30-13 loss at home to the Rams. Seahawks closed as 4-point favorites. It was their worst home loss since 2017. We also talked about how there's no home advantage anymore, at least against the spread. So now they were 17-23-1 before the loss. Now 17-24-1 in the last 5 seasons, not including the year where there was no fans in the crowd. And then Seattle just gave up. And that's another bad sign. And I'm not saying they don't bounce back here, but that's also a sign that you're not getting protection. That, when Gino just gives up like that, 12 yards of offense in the second half, 1 first down, 16 of 26 for 112 yards and a touchdown. They finished with 180 total yards, 2 of 9 on third down. They only had the ball for 20 minutes and 37 seconds of that game. DK Metcalf, 3 catches for 47 yards and a touchdown. He lost his cool. Tyler Lockett, just 2 catches for 10 yards and left hurt. We'll have to get more information on him. First round pick Jackson Smith-Njigba, 3 catches for 13 yards. Kenneth Walker ran 12 carries for 64 yards. But Bobby Wagner, at least he was trying out there, man. 19 tackles, but the defense looked awful. They couldn't get off the field. Rams had 27 first downs, 426 total yards, and almost 40 minutes of possession. The Rams were 11 of 17 on third down. The defense had 0 sacks and just 2 quarterback hits on Stafford. The Rams were 3-3 in the red zone. And, Seattle lost both its starting offensive tackles to injuries in the third quarter. And that's a big thing. So Abraham Lucas and Charles Cross, we need to know what the hell's going on with them, because that offensive line was not good to begin with. And now you have 2 hurt. Seattle was without Devin Witherspoon, 2023 first round pick cornerback. He's still working his way back from a hamstring injury. He's expected to be available this week. That will help them. Here we have the Lions on extra rest and a ton of confidence. The 21-20 win at Kansas City on Thursday night. Troy, of course, had them on the money line, the 6.5, the 6, and the under. I just had them with the 6. It helped that there was no Kelsey on offense, no Chris Jones on defense, but the Lions were full value for the win. Goff was 22 of 35 for 253 yards, 1 touchdown. Josh Reynolds, 4 catches for 80. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6 catches for 71 yards and a touchdown. David Montgomery looked very good. He ran 21 times for 74 yards in his first game as a Lion. The defense was strong all game long. Now, obviously, Kadarius Toney was atrocious and making mistakes and not catching balls that he should have caught, but they still held the Chiefs to 5 of 14 on third down. They didn't sack Mahomes, but we know how crafty he is. They did hit him 7 times, held him to just 226 yards passing, and Branch returned an interception 50 yards for a touchdown. I don't want to fade teams that looked horrible in week 1, and I'm not going to. I have to. It has to be a buy low, sell high situation in football. It has to be. It has to be, and that's the only way to succeed. So I don't want to fade any of these teams that looked atrocious in week 1, but I certainly don't want to back the Seattle Seahawks. Take it away, Troy.
I found a few things in this game extremely interesting. First of all, Seattle, like you said, Jim, public road dog, getting 80% of the spread bets, or at least it was 80% when I made this note. I mean, I came in here week 1 talking about one thing with the Seahawks team, and that's regression. When you have the 30th ranked O-line and D-line, they were per PFF, they were ranked 30th in their offensive line, 30th on their defensive line. When you have that combination, you cannot be successful in the NFL for long. I really think it's that easy. They just cannot be successful with that type of performance on the line of scrimmage. And they're going to have to sign guys off their streets to replace their injured offensive line at this point. All that hype with this team kind of dissipated pretty damn quick. But did it, though, with all these bets coming in on the Seahawks? Here's some interesting things that tell me that the Seahawks were not able to execute at all this week. First of all, they had no sacks on Matt Stafford. This O-line the Rams offensive line rated number 1 overall in pass blocking this week, whereas last year they were 28th overall. Rams got some of the lowest ratings defensively. Rams were ranked overall defensively in week 1, 29th overall, but they still held them to what? What was it, like 12 yards in the second half or something absolutely ridiculous? I mean, that's telling me that this team just cannot execute. And I have to imagine it has to do first with that offensive line. And their defensive line is not any better. Whereas as it goes for the Lions, I think that I only upgraded this team in the rankings. Their D-line and their secondary was impressive to me. Some of the play calling was a little bit sketchy on the defensive side, but sometimes, they're thinking on a much different level than I am, right? They spend their entire lives calling plays. So what do I know? But I think that's the defensive play calling was a little bit sketchy, but still pretty impressive output from this defense for the Lions. And how about that fake punt on their own 17-yard line, right? They fucking go down and score some points. Then when they're on their opponent's 40-yard line, they run a key screen for no gain, and then they punt on 4th and 1 from the 40. I mean, I didn't understand that at all. I was like perplexed. I was pissed because I had the money line. What was impressive about the Lions, though, on offense is that just how Goff looked so comfortable in the pocket. And you could tell he was going through each level of his progression, right? And you could tell he was doing that on each level. And he was able to deliver passes downfield accurately, consistently. You got a good offensive line, a good run game, and you could run play action with Goff, and he could throw the ball downfield. And the Seahawks team is going to stop him. I just cannot see the Seahawks team winning this game. And that's why I moved pretty heavily on the Lions and Eagles teaser. So I locked that in, but I'm really considering. I would rather take the Lions at -6 than -5.5. If you go and look at spreads that close at 5.5, interestingly enough, the away team is 7-3 ATS, which is pretty interesting to me. These 5.5 spreads, and this is all based on Pinnacle lines. So, but I see the Lions dominating all phases of the game. I could really see after watching week 1 with the Seahawks team, I could see the bottom falling out with this team pretty fucking quick. And, the lack of execution is just there. It's in the numbers. We witnessed it all. If you watched that game, you physically witnessed it yourself. So there's only one way here. It's Lions. There's no way I'm on the Seahawks. I know a lot of people. There's some professionals that really like the Seahawks this week. It ain't me. I don't see it. I'm kind of pounding my fist on the Seahawks team saying they fucking suck.
There were professionals that really liked the Seahawks last week. Really respected top level cappers that were all over the Seahawks. So, but I'm not. I only want to fade teams that overachieved in week 1. So there's no chance I'm going to fade a team that was awful. So there's no chance I fade the Seahawks and the Bengals so far of the teams that we've spoken about. But I don't want anything to do with the Seahawks. So it creates.
I did do a little work on that. I'll post something officially, but I did not see. So like when I looked at a lot of teams when I was looking at the Raiders game, we're going to talk about, or we already touched on it. I looked at some of the, I was trying to profile some of these spots where dogs won on the road or at home. If you were a dog and you won like the Lions did, like the Raiders did last week, how did they perform in week 2? The Giants were kind of making up the full list, but they did pretty damn well, ATS and on the money line as dogs again. But not a big sample, but pretty interesting to look at.
Well, that is the official teaser that we touched on off the top for Troy Torrence, who's coming off that monster week 1, plus 7.22 units on single unit plays. Pregame 11-8, 57.9% with an average line of plus 150. Let's move.
Funny too. Last week, Jim, I was on a bunch of dogs, pretty much everything. I was on the plus side of things. And now this week it's looking like I'm going to be on the favorites pretty much. So things change pretty quick.
Yeah, and you got to adjust from week to week, and so there's nothing. I mean, that's not a red flag at all to me. Black Maverick says first time seeing this guy. We need more Troy Torrence. There's my guy Guillermo Zertucci in the house. Let's move on. But that teaser: Eagles -1, Lions +0.5 is an official teaser here for Troy and his action. But you must follow him as he put out 18 different bets for week 1, made them official by tagging us and tagging a pub and Bankroll Blitz. Let's move on. Next spot on. Oh, did you want to add one more thing, Troy, my man?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's all good.
I just wanted to add this. Yes, and especially when you have such a quick turnaround from Sunday, there's a lot of work to be done that I don't feel ready to move on these plays. Heading into week 1, I mean, I had a month. I had all those plays posted. Most of the plays posted prior to the show, but I'm definitely going to be posting all my action. Anything I bet.
The Tuesdays, we're trying to get ahead of everything, and it is sort of a work in progress show, and we do lean heavily on the great cappers in the chat as well. Let's roll on.